Welcome to Womenpreneur Asia, the podcast that celebrates the incredible journeys and stories of Asian women entrepreneurs across the region. I'm your host, Krista Gun, and welcome to Season 9. My mission is to uncover the stories and strategies of Asian women entrepreneurs in Asia to help you and inspire you as you navigate your own business journey. Plus, I'm excited to announce that I've just launched my new ebook called Podcasting Power. Many business owners have asked me how they too could start their own podcast, that I decided to write an ebook, sharing everything that I do in my podcast and more. Check out my brand new ebook, Podcasting Power, at womenpreneurasia.com. Today's episode is with a Malaysian artist coach, Melor Mokhtar, based in New York. As a New York-based artist coach, Melor's work goes far beyond business strategies. She empowers Asian women artists to break free from societal expectations and embrace their creative selves. But her story really began with her. From redefining success to personal breakthroughs, Melor's story is a story of leaving Malaysia to find her own path, and in that process, she now helps other women find their paths despite the overwhelming societal mindset and business challenges. Before we hit record, Melor asked if she should censor herself, and I said I would really appreciate it if she didn't. I want my guests to be as real as they are in real life. And now onwards to today's episode. Hello, Melor. Welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So, Melor, we are recording this with a huge time difference between the both of us, right? So, you are in New York and I'm in Malaysia, and we're doing this, well, technically it's your morning and my night.
Yes. I'm in the past and you are in the future, basically.
Yeah. So, Melor, today, I know we're going to have a fascinating conversation because we had a preliminary call a week or so before this, and we had a really great chat. And I'm really excited to talk to you about your business, but also how you help other women through your business. So could you tell us a little bit about your business right now and introduce what Melor Mokhtar is doing in New York?
Well, I came to New York for my master's in art history and art business. And I have been in the New York art market for around 11 years. And through that journey, I realized that there weren't many people advocating for artists. And so I combined my skills and passion for coaching and training with my experience, and I decided to become an artist coach. And it was really by accident. It was because artists would approach me and I would just strike up a conversation, and it would always end up being kind of a life coaching, strategy, business coaching session, and they've always appreciated it. So that's when I decided to focus on that. And so that's how I help artists and guide them from every aspect of art business to networking, setting up a foundation of business, to strategy, to creative exploration if they haven't necessarily discovered their artistic signature. So I cover all aspects of the business, but I also cover what people would call mindset.
And how are you enjoying your business?
I'm absolutely loving it. And I think there's no other words to describe it. If anything, my business has really brought me so much joy and so much compassion for people, because the artists that I coach come from all walks of life. So for me, I don't think I can do anything else, quite honestly, and I'm just really grateful that my clients trust me as well. So if anything, it's just brought so much joy and excitement, and I can't wait to see what more I can do with my clients, how much more I can expand or refine.
And when you talk about joy, is there any particular moment or story that comes to mind?
There are many moments of joy, and there are many moments of breakthroughs. Also, a lot of coaching is holding space for my clients, because it's also a lot of bittersweet moments. And what I mean by that is that when I coach artists, I don't just coach them as an artist. I can't separate the person and the artist. So a lot of my coaching sometimes is really life coaching. And I use the creative component to really guide them. And indirectly, it has facilitated a lot of breakthroughs. And these are amazing, wonderful, passionate, strong women, but they've also lived life where it's not so great. There's been some really fucked up moments in their life. And so through the creative process, they've had these personal breakthroughs and they share with me, and they're excited and they're joyous, but they also grieve. They grieve for the life that they have had. So for me, the best moments is when these women, because 95% of my clients are women, which is amazing. These clients, they embrace their creative self, which a lot of the times in their life they've suppressed because of what society has said or what their parents' expectations. So when they start choosing themselves actively in their life, directly and indirectly, they choose a creative life. They choose to honor their creative self, their woman self, and just they themselves. And to me, that is one of the most amazing moments. But it is a bittersweet moment. So I think that's something in business and in life that I realized. As much as I celebrate those joyous moments, there's always that tinge of bittersweetness. Yeah. So sometimes the tears are happy tears, but it's also, oh fuck, like what have I been doing all this time? kind of feeling. Yeah.
You just mentioned that 95% of your clients are women. Yeah. Was that intentional from the very beginning?
Absolutely not. And a lot of my clients come to me actually because I hosted these seminars, because there were always these theoretical aspects of art business that I felt artists needed to know. Like, how do you work with a gallery? How do you network? How do you close sales? And how do you build a foundation for a successful art business? So these are topics that I've been dying and itching to share. And it's very jam-packed with information. So there I am, and I'm just giving information one after the other, but I'm also myself. So I'll be cursing or I'll be giving analogies of food or relationships, and people get that. So the energy I gave out, or the energy that they've experienced, was me in my element, just really not giving a shit about anything else except to give to the artist. And so a lot of the women would approach me. Yes, I did have that offering, but me doing the public programming was never about the offering. It was merely to educate. And women started to approach me. About 1/3 of my clients have never came to one of my seminars, but it was through word of mouth. And it was always through word of mouth through another woman that attended my course or that forwarded to them. Or they saw my Instagram account and something resonated. And I love that regardless of gender, I love that they approach me. At the same time, I noticed the trend with the women that approached me, where they were in their lives. A lot of the women, so just to give context, for artists that are starting out, I work with them in terms of the foundational part of their business, or trying to hone into discovering what their artistic style is. The other part is strategy. So a lot of these women, when they approach me, they approach me with, I need help with strategizing. I need help to have exhibitions overseas, or it's very art related. But when I started coaching them, when I got to the core of it, it's always very human-centric related topics that was really blocking them from being a successful artist. it's wild, and I don't question. Sometimes, the universe will bring people into your life, like at the right time, at the right moment. And I wholeheartedly believe that and accept that, because the women that approach me are at a place in their life where they want to live a new truth. And they have gone through years of expectation, especially Asian women. So this is the huge thing about Asian women that I found. Even if they were mid-career artists, there's always, I lived up to the expectations and what my family wanted. I suppressed my creative side because it was safer to go to this route. It's always about saving face. The Asians, they love to save face. And then, especially with women, it's about saving face. Live up to that expectation of being a wife or a mother. A lot of them are like, hey, I've done that, but I'm still not myself. I'm still not happy. But there's also this creative inkling that is bubbling up. So they come to me and they say, I really want to be this artist. But so when I coach them, I kind of coach them on both, because the only way they can really embrace themselves as an artist is letting go of that expectations or all that history, all that junk that has been put on them. The best part about it too is that I facilitate women to redefine their new truth as to what success is, what business is, what being an artist is about, what is it about embracing their true selves. So that to me has been exceptionally rewarding, and also that I find that trend very common about 90% of the time, especially with my Asian women clients.
So what I hear you say is that they come to you first thinking that they need to do the business side of things, right? Like, yes. I need to get my business in order. I need to get into some galleries and all that. But actually, their first and foremost need is to work on what's holding them back, in the sense of their mindset, their thinking, and perhaps even how society perceives them?
Yes, and the way I do that is facilitate and really hold space for them to really come back to their hearts and to come home to themselves and their hearts. That is a concept sometimes that is very hard to describe. It's really coming home to yourself and loving your creative self. And I do that by using art. I facilitate that by creative expression, by studio practices. For example, I don't coach directly about that. I see that that's an issue. But what it is I have to respect their pace and their space and also their journeys. What I do is use art to get to that. For example, I always study an artist portfolio. And sometimes what happens with artists is they get stuck on this signature style. Like all they draw is faces, or all they draw is a scenery. But I realize they're not really expanding themselves. They go there because that's what they're used to. That's really their safe zone. So for more than half of my clients, after I study their portfolio, I give them homework and I'll say, I studied your portfolio, and for the next month, all I want you to do is be in the studio for an hour a day. You need to be consistent about it and really be committed about it and just draw or just paint. But you're not allowed to use black, or you're not allowed to use blue, or you're not allowed to paint water. And it's very funny because it's kind of like telling them you're not allowed to breathe, because that's all they're used to. And they hate that. They fucking hate that. And I tell them, okay, WhatsApp me the images and your progress. And I will always get the first 2 weeks, the resistance that I get in the first 2 weeks. They'll send me the picture and then they'll journal about it. I always make sure they journal about it so that they can reflect and see for themselves. And 2-3 months down the line, they can read about it and have that realization and awareness. And so I've had artists where they come up to me and they say, I fucking hated it. I hated it. This is ugly. This is so ugly. I ended up poking holes in it. And I ended up taking something and burning. And I absolutely love that, because at least they're getting it out of their system, like, because they've feared making ugly art and feared, and especially Asian women, the fear and the perfectionism level is so high. So I'm like, okay, you think you're going to make ugly art? Let's make ugly art. And it's just so great, because through that breakthrough of them getting used to being uncomfortable and getting used to ideas of, oh, before I needed to do that in my art practice, now I don't. Actually, that wasn't as bad, and they feel confident in themselves, and so they take that confidence, or they take that awareness and realization and adapt it to their own life. So that's why a lot of my coaching is very much life coaching, but I always use the creative practice as an anchor. But I also want to say that it's not always the case. There are some clients where they're on a roll. They're going super straight, and it's just a matter of me meeting where they're at, and it's just a matter of strategizing. But I also am very sensitive in what they're going through in life. If they have a part-time job, or if they're going through certain health issues, I work with them so that their practice is very much aligned to their life.
What an interesting way to coach, because you're putting them through discomfort.
Yes, and in some ways it is, but I also make a game out of it or provide guidance out of it. For example, with artists that I say, don't use black, I will tell them, okay, use color and draw for 10 minutes, or listen to a song and draw for that duration of that song. And when the song changes, draw something else. So I do create these activities for them so that there's a goal. So they're not necessarily focused on what is lacking. They're more focused on, okay, so here's the goal. But at the same time, a lot of my work with them is very process driven and not results driven. As Asian women, a lot of them, almost all of them, actually all of them are very results. It's like, what are your results? What are your results? And so I'm like, I really don't give a shit what you draw sometimes. I just want you to draw. Or I just want you to be in the studio. I just want you to be in creation. And it's interesting to see the conversations that come up, like, is this good? Am I doing it right? Or I didn't like it, and so I tried to fix it. And I said, you know what? Like, this is the best time in your creative career when you have free reign to just do whatever the hell you want. Like, who cares if it sells? And sometimes my focus is focus on the process. The more connected you are in the process and your creative intuition, the better art you make. And then from there, sales will come later. I always believe that when you create art from a place from what I like to call the creative intuition that flows, that translation of what you have in your mind to the actual output is going to be successful, but that takes practice. And then we can worry about sales later. But if you're going to create stuff that is very much if it will sell or for the market, you're overthinking it. And the audience can see when you're overthinking it, or if you're making it for mass production, for just to appease people. So that's why when I focus on that, I focus on process. Yes, there's discomfort element, but not necessarily all my clients are like that. But I think this is where I love one-on-one coaching, because I really study their portfolios in depth. I really study their results and their data just to see what has been working and what hasn't been working. But I also see sometimes the loopholes or the opportunities or their weaknesses. And this is where I'll present it to them and work with them in stages.
So it seems like these are some of the internal challenges for the clients who come to you, who work with you, right? Sometimes they think that I want to create marketable art. But in the end, you put them through a process whereby they first have to go through that process with you, or even go through that process with themselves to create the art that really is a creative output from them before they even think about selling?
Yeah, and I think this is quite a common question that I get when I do my seminars or when clients approach me. It's as if they want the results or that status very quickly, and I tell them, before you can even run a marathon, you need to learn to crawl. And if you're the type to just want that result but not really do the work, then I'm very upfront with them. I tell them that's not me. So where I work with them is to build that foundation, because if I take my clients and say, oh, I want that exhibition or I want that sales or everything, if I had a magic pill that I could give them, I would be a millionaire, basically. I would sell that shit for so much money. So if I take them where they are and give them that big goal, just that result, they're going to screw themselves because it's like, are you ready for all that? Are you ready? If you get all that sales, there's going to be a huge demand. Are you ready to produce that? Have you been in your studio enough to produce that massive amount of work? Or have you been in the studio enough to feel confident that that is your artistic vocabulary? So yeah, it is quite a process. Before you go to the results, it's always, let's focus on the process. Let's focus on what's working and what's not working. For example, all my clients, they all want to do sales, right? And I say, great, if you want to sell, what's stopping you? What's going on? And I'm looking at the results and say, oh, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure how to close sales. Asians, we're very shy about talking about money. That's very upfront, or they're not sure how to approach galleries or what. And I say, okay, well, that's networking, that's skills. But sometimes there's resistance. There's resistance even calling themselves an artist. So before I throw them out there into the world, or they go out there into the world, into the lion's den, it's like, let's equip you with the confidence and the skills. And the confidence comes from skills. The confidence comes from being in the studio. The confidence comes from the process of it. I'm very process driven and data driven, and from there, and strategy driven, rather than, okay, you got the results, but if you're unhappy, what's the point? Like what's the point? If you're still insecure, or if you're unsure, but you get the results, then how is that even growth?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, when you're talking about working with people, and especially like you say, Asian women artists, right, who have a lot on their shoulders, even before they come to you, and even when they come to you, they still have to get part of or some of those things off their shoulders before they even can get to focus on their art. Let's talk about culture and societal barriers, right? Like, how do you balance preserving cultural identity with helping artists appeal to their audience, or even a global audience? Let's talk about their audience first before we talk global. But is there a difficulty in doing that?
So this might be one of the most controversial things I say. Me as a coach, I facilitate preserving what the artist wants to preserve. Sometimes it's not about culture. So they've lived their life where they put family first, religion first, country first, family honor, save face first. So there are times when what they really want is they want to put themselves first. So I actually facilitate preserving them first. What is their identity? Or even facilitating redefining their identity for themselves. However, that doesn't mean that they don't care about family, religion, or country. If anything, I facilitate preserving them first and their essence, or facilitating them questioning what is it they want. Because from there, when they love themselves, or they are confident with themselves as an artist, they're more connected to the divine. I've had that feedback where the more they get into this work with me, the more they feel connected to the divine, because they're more connected to themselves. Even if they don't believe in the divine, they believe in this power within themselves. And then they can even give more to their communities. So I would flip that question and say it's more about preserving their love and acceptance for themselves in this new role, in this new context.
Very interesting way of looking at women artists, especially Asian ones.
A lot of the times for them that they do wear that Asian identity, a lot of my clients, perhaps only 10% have that identity, that cultural identity hat, but the others want to explore without all these hats or without all these labels that are put on me.
In terms of the global perspective, how do you think the global art scene differs in its treatment of Asian women artists compared to your experiences in different countries?
There's a shift in the global art market where, for example, Carmen Herrera, a Cuban artist, she became famous, but she's been an artist her whole life. But she started to get recognition when Lisson Gallery started representing her. She's in her 80s. She was 100 when she got a show at the Whitney Museum in New York. And so now there's this shift globally, like, what haven't we discovered? Oh shit, like there's been all these women artists in front of us. Who can we bring out? Or who can we start supporting? Who can we start studying? And so also, there's also a wave of women also in the industry where they realize there's not enough of a platform. So they create a platform for Asian women. For example, Yi Lang, which is a contemporary Malaysian artist, she is represented by a gallery by two women from the Philippines. Before, perhaps there wasn't as many platforms, but now there's so many platforms where they just focus on Asian artists, or they just focus on women, or they focus on emerging artists. So now there's more of a platform. So in terms of locally, in Malaysia, for example, yes, there is a gallery platform. However, it's nothing compared to the international platform. But I'm always telling artists, especially women artists, to have agency over their own careers. There's so many ways you can reach out to your community in a creative way. There's so many ways you can sell your art through the internet. Instead of waiting for the gallery to notice you, what can we do to get noticed? What can we do to create it on your own? What can we do to make money on our own? And the internet changed the whole art market, which is great. So for me, I think it's less about, woe is me, Asian women artists don't get the limelight. It's just like, fuck no, we can create our own light. We can create our own platform. So that's where I come from. Yes, it hasn't been great for them, but now there are institutions, people, curators, galleries, platforms that focus on women and Asian women artists. And I'm also saying, let's create more platforms. Let's do more. What else can we do? As long as you have the internet and you have the willingness to network in person, there's so much you can do.
And I think that's also how I found you. Or rather, you were recommended to me, but then again, of course, we engaged online, right? On the internet, even before we did this recording. So I had heard about you, and I even watched an interview you did with Marika. And I thought it was really cool and really interesting. So I thought, oh, hey, I must get Melor on my podcast and hear her perspective on how she coaches women artists and how she helps to grow the art scene.
And I do that by advocating for the artists, for Malaysian artists. I do that. And I also have Singaporean clients as well. That is my community service, where once a year I go back and give to my community, give to my peoples, as I like to say. And I make sure that I change the prices to make sure that's affordable for them. If there's any label that I really resonate with is becoming an advocate for the artist through education and through coaching. And from there, my goal isn't to have the artists call me all the time and tell me, what should I do? What should I do? My goal is really to empower them and educate them so that they can make smart decisions, so that they can create those opportunities for themselves.
Like you say, don't have to wait for the opportunity to come to you.
Yeah.
You can go and create that opportunity for yourself, because we have the internet. You can
Yes.
connect and network with anyone you want. You just need to DM them, right? Sometimes. So
Yeah.
in your case that you've been helping all your clients and especially more so women, right? 95% of women. Can you share a success story of an Asian or Malaysian woman artist that you've coached to overcome some significant obstacles in her artist journey?
My biggest success story is when my clients approach me and tell me, oh, great, I'm so excited. I can't wait to go out there and create the opportunities. And it's so empowering when they feel empowered. For me, the success stories is not necessarily about the results. Yes, there's results, but it's more of their breakthroughs, because we're talking about going back to the whole saving face and societal expectations. That is like 20, 30, 40 years of this mindset that, yes, has brought value, but hasn't really allowed them to live their authentic self. They don't necessarily have that freedom to call themselves an artist or that confidence. My biggest breakthroughs is when they can call themselves an artist, when they do come home to their own heart, where it's not a perfect life. There's some fucked up stuff in their life. There's some shit going on. But when they can come back to their hearts and to themselves and have know how to hold space to them as an artist, to have that peace where things are shitty around or things are crazy, but they can come back to themselves through using art as that channel. To me, that's the biggest thing, because what's the point of being a successful artist if there's all that other stuff going on? But when they allow themselves to shed those other labels and shed their skins and they put themselves first. And then also, a number of them have gone through major traumatic experience that you hear in the news, and they trust me to share that with me. And like things like abuse, gaslighting, bad breakups, very bad relationships, or bad relationships with their parents. When they're no longer feeling like they're a victim, or when they're brave enough to face that through the creative exploration. That to me is such a huge success, because now they've learned to heal from that and process that so they can move on in their lives. In terms of other art-related world results, there's sales, there's opportunities, there's collaborations. But most importantly, all these is in alignment with what they want, with what their values are. And another success is when these women are able to redefine what being an artist is, what being an Asian, a woman, or whatever religion, or what it means to be a Muslim woman, for example. So when they have that space to redefine or to see how they want to operate in the world, that's just, to me, that's the biggest success story. Because now it's just a matter of you getting out there and doing whatever you want. That to me is really irreplaceable.
So the woman is changed in a way.
The woman is changing, the woman has changed, or the woman is allowing herself to change. I think that's even a bigger thing. Because
I think that's even more powerful, right? That's more powerful, right? Allowing herself to change.
And having that skills to allow them to change, because next year maybe they say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be a mother. I want to be an artist. Or next year they say, hey, I want to be a mother or a wife. Or they say, wait, I want to go overseas. So it's just allowing them the skills to allow them to question. And that to me, I feel sometimes is powerful. It's also extremely controversial, because in some countries in Asia, the moment you question that can get you in trouble. Not only for family, but, with the country, as you talk about religion and things like that. So if anything, I think my work with women, it allows them to embrace religion and embrace their community even more, or wholeheartedly. It's really wonderful to see the different definitions of success, which they tell me. A lot of the times, their happiness and success is, and I mentioned this before, is quite bittersweet. because there's also a certain level of grief or level of letting go of shit, what was I doing all that time? Or shit, like, you mean I could have had this earlier? And I always tell them it's always a journey. You had to go through that to get to where you are now.
When I hear you talking about this and the woman and the growth and the bittersweet moments of letting go, like you're molting, right? Like you're letting go of the old you to get into the new you and to create the art that you've always wanted to create from your heart, right? From inside. And you were talking about there's certain things you cannot question. Do some of these women paint that or create that in their art? Like controversial things that they want to say? Yeah.
Yes. And yes, they do, and some don't. Some, because that's not the narrative of their art. That's not their signature style in terms of their business. So it's a bit of both. And when they do, we explore ways to present that in a way that's true to them. And for those that are, say, mid-career artists or that have experience and where I work with them more for strategy, that's also equally as fun because we think about ways to display it, or we brainstorm different concepts, or sometimes I even give them different ideas of how to engage the community so that their artwork isn't just something that is very passive, but there's an active element of participation to it. Yes, there are some clients that use that narrative in their art, and some it's just part of their process, but it's not necessarily a part of their work.
If you had any advice to give to women artists, doesn't matter whether they're Asian or non-Asian, what would be some unusual advice that you would give them?
It is the 3 C's, and it's creativity, consistency, and commitment. And these are the 3 things that I feel is just the foundation of any art business, regardless if you're just starting out or if you've been in the market for a while, or even if you just want to be a serious hobbyist. I think it goes back to my controversial opinion is I always say to always choose yourself first, to put your mental health, to put your health, to always choose you first. Because when you choose you first, you're happier, there's more growth, there's a lot more healing. And when you invest in yourself and say, I am worthy, or give yourself that time and space to explore creatively, that's when you can really be a better family member. That's when you can really be a better person for your community and country. That's when you're really, if they're a spiritual or religious person, that's when you can really be, I feel, closer to the divine because you are in your element. So, because when I say that, people always say, I hate it when people have this binary thinking, oh, you choose yourself first. That means you don't choose God. That means you're anti-God or you're anti-Malaysian or you're anti. I was like, no.
You're selfish, right? You're selfish.
You're selfish. It's like, no, there's still a very part of me, but I use that as a guide. Like I use religion or spirituality as a guide, as kind of my North Star, so that when I am in business, is it aligned to my values? So it's not that you pick one, the others don't matter. You pick one and the rest support you, then you can give back to the others. So that is my unusual advice for women artists or all artists is to choose you, but choosing yourself sometimes does come at a cost. And I acknowledge that because it's going against the grain. It's upsetting people, or it's also challenging yourself because everyone says, oh, art, it's so unstable, or you can't make money, or there's always that stigma to it. But I say there's always a balance that you can find to support yourself and also to support your creative side as well.
And so now I want to get into your story. How do you know you were meant to be an artist coach?
It started about 20 years ago that I had this opportunity to be a facilitator and to be a trainer. And I remember it did not take me much effort to want to add value in someone's life through education or through coaching. And I had never felt more alive. Like I said, I could die tomorrow because I did this today. So I'm a daughter of a diplomat that lived overseas, moved every 2 years, lived in 7 different countries. When I'm with people, I connect to the heart. And that's a very kumbaya woo-woo way of saying it, but that's the honest truth. And connecting with people came so easy that I didn't realize that was a skill. I felt it needed to be hard. And that was my own bullshit that I brought in. I thought, no, I need to suffer. I need to hone my skills, and teaching and connecting to people came so easy to me. I didn't realize, hey, I should actually do this for a living. And so I combined that with my experience. Just like my clients and them having breakthroughs, perhaps later in life, I had my breakthrough and I realized, fuck, yeah, this connecting with people is easy, but maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe God had given me certain skills or certain passions for this. And so that's when I realized this is what I need to do for a living. But also when I'm with my clients and when I am coaching, it's funny in a way because I'm not thinking of all the bullshit of me, my insecurities or my imposter syndrome. When I'm focused with my clients, it's as if I'm closer to the divine because all I'm thinking about is them winning. And it excites me. And it's this massive burst of love and flow and energy. And I thought, there's nothing else that gives me that amount of joy or connectedness to the world, the universe. And so that's when I knew that this is what I need to be doing. It's odd. It's a very spiritual experience for me.
Because when you're in that coaching moment with your client, it is no longer about you and the client. It's like this completeness.
Yes, and
togetherness.
Yes, and it's still hard for me to articulate. It's still very hard for me to articulate because with each client, it's such a different experience. And because I know about their personal life or their personal breakthroughs, and also I see their creativity, I see their art, and I see their results. It's to encapsulate that. What it is, it's really love. And it's this universal love that transcends so many things. And so for me, love is the core of a spiritual experience. And so that's why love, the divine spiritual experience, I just embrace it as it is. I think it can be scary because I've never really felt that, and I've denied that. I myself have denied that for quite a number of years. So it's also something for me as a business person. It's like, this is business, this is money. What does heart have to do with it? What does God or what does all this have to do with it? So to combine that is beautiful. And so many people have done it successfully also that I've seen other coaches and other businesses. It's an exciting process for me as well. Let's just put it that way.
And when you first had the idea to be an artist coach, did you ever think that it would be like this?
Never.
This indescribable,
Never.
Emotional state of being?
Never, because I had assumed it's about strategy. It's about how can you exhibit your works? How can you do sales? Yes, that's a huge part of my work, but I didn't realize the amount of heart that would come into it. On the client's end, I did not expect it, and it's been such a beautiful journey of discovery for me as a coach as well.
Would you say that you yourself have been changed by the process, or you've evolved with the process?
Most definitely. I have changed. At the same time, I think the change comes from awareness. But at the same time, it's also extremely scary. For every success or every great value that I give or contribute to myself, or every skill that empowers me that I learn so that I can give back to my clients and share that with my clients, it's an equal depth here. So it's kind of Khalil Gibran says, how happy you are is also a reflection of how you can experience sadness. So the happier, more grateful that you are, that carves in as to how much sadness you experience. So it's both. So I don't want to sit here and pretend, oh yeah, it's so great, it's successful, and it's just a bed of roses. No, there's a lot of shit that comes with it because there's bigger risks, there's bigger falls. Yeah, so I've had my fair share of breakdowns and breakthroughs. So yes, it's certainly changed me as a person in many ways. Yeah. So when there's tears of happiness, there's also grief. There's also tears of, oh shit, that's scary, or oh crap, that's what a ride. Yeah. So it's wild. It's absolutely wild to.
So what are you no longer afraid of then?
Wow, that's such a loaded question. Krista, I love loaded questions. Oh, you are going to make me cry.
I've cried on my own podcast, so it's okay. We can cry together.
I too have been very much scared to, just like my clients, some of their stories, not all, but some, I too have been scared to embrace this calling. And I kept giving this analogy to people. I said, I'm really scared because it's as if I'm on this cliff and the universe, and I know there's people waiting for me. There's clients that are approaching me. And at one point, this is before I had truly embraced it. At one point, I felt in the past I was on this ledge, and I felt like I need to make this leap. It just makes no sense for me not to make this leap. And I kept saying, fuck, I'm going to fall. I'm going to fucking fall. And I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. But that shift from what if I fall to what if I fly, to how far can I fly, to who else is flying with me, that is fucking scary. And it still happens every day in my life. It still happens. There's always some form of jumping off the cliff. It might not be as high, it might not be as dramatic. So for me, I think I'll be lying if I say I'm not still afraid of that. I think I'll be lying if I say there's not a tinge in me that imposter syndrome. But I've learned to kind of deal with it and kind of calm that voice, because I think that voice will always be there. But to have that faith in me that how far can I fly? I'm going to fly. I'm not going to fall. So that's a long-winded way of explaining like what I'm not afraid of. It's really just embracing what's next, embracing the uncertainty of things and figuring it out along the way. I had some business acumen from what I learned working in the art market, but when you are your own business, that's a whole different ballgame. When you rely on your own money that you make, not from someone else, to pay your bills or to pay rent, it's a whole different ballgame that people didn't prepare me for, that I wasn't prepared for. So I'm not afraid of jumping or flying. Or also another thing is I'm not also afraid of embracing me and being who I am. I think I probably cussed so much in this podcast, more than your other guests. So yeah, and then I had clothes on, like I said, like I cuss and I'm real, and there's like, I love some art is so highbrow, but there's also the lowbrow part of my life, that's, So it's just, this is me. You know, I'm not afraid to say this is me. I'm not for everyone, but there are people that will resonate and will not, and to not be afraid of that, and to not be afraid of not being liked or liked. Yeah, so it's a lot. But I appreciate you asking that question. Even though it shed a few tears, but that's the reality of it. Yeah, there are tears in business. And I think people that says no, I'm like, something might be wrong.
But like you said, it's heart, right? I mean, there's a lot of heart. It has to have a lot of heart.
It does, because it's not what's the point. It's not what's the point. Yeah.
Okay, now something fun. Okay, what's the craziest thing you've ever done in your life?
I think bungee jumping was the craziest, but also moving to New York. I lived a great life when I was in Malaysia, in KL. I was living with my parents, you know, in Asia. People live with their parents, and that's, you know, in the Western countries, everyone moves out like at 16, 18, but I wasn't paying rent. I was going to a great gym, one of those expensive gyms. I was eating out 3 times a week, and I wasn't suffering. But I left everything comfortable to come to New York. And when I moved to New York, I was living in a living room. I was asking people that were moving out of their houses, hey, can I have your spices? Because I don't have money. All my money was going through rent, right? So I think that was one of the biggest risks I did, because I didn't know it at the time, but I myself needed to redefine what was important to me. I just felt a bit lost in Malaysia, or perhaps I felt that disconnected. Not to say that New York gave me that connection, but I had to leave. I just felt I needed to leave. Sometimes you do things that have absolutely zero sense or has no explanation, but that was the biggest risk. And I'm glad I did do that. And I said, shit, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. If I don't get, because I only had money for one semester. If I don't get the money for the next semester, then still, at least I did something. At least I can go to sleep at night and look in the mirror and look at my reflection and know, okay, I did that. Even though I ran out of money, at least I did that.
At least you took a chance on yourself.
Yes. And everyone else was getting married or having kids, or I was not. So that's big. I thought that was a big thing, and I'm still reeling from that. But it's still a process. I'm still paying the prices and still also reaping the benefits from taking that risk. But I never regretted it, ever.
But did your parents ask you why? why this, and why New York, and why at this time when you had a comfortable life in KL?
Yeah, well, I lived in New York. My dad was posted in New York in the early 90s. So I knew I wanted to go to the best place for art. And to me, that was New York. And with my parents, I started holding my own passport when I was 18. I remember my dad asking my mom, my late father asking my mom, and I hid it from them. When I did my master's, I hid it from them. I worked my ass off to get the money for the tests. They were so expensive. I applied, I paid the fees and everything, and I did it quietly. I did not get their approval. And I think even when I left, I didn't get their approval. And my dad was asking my mom, if she gets sick, are you going to let her go? And my mom turned to my dad. She's been holding on to her own passport since she was 18. If she decides to go, she's going to go. We can't stop her. So that was hard. So for me, I didn't get the blessing from my parents. If anything, it was me telling them, hey, this is what I'm doing. And it took them a while to accept it. If anything, they were just like, what do you want to do in your life? What's going on? And that messed me up a bit, because it made me question everything when it comes from your father, or when it comes from a family member. And I did it, and in the end, they accepted it, and in their own way. So I'll take that. That's still a win for me. They accepted it in their own way, their own parental Asian way.
That's a really interesting story, because you just wanted to do it, and you just went and did it.
Yeah,
how courageous is that?
But I had no money. I had no money. In 2012, I said, okay, in 2013, I'm going to New York. I'm going to New York. So everyone that saw me, they're like, oh, it's New York girl. It's New York girl. Because I eat, shit, live, breathe that New York all. And I think that was the second time in my life where I would say, that power of manifestation and all, that was truly, truly me exercising that. Yeah. Like, I'm going to New York, zero money. I didn't even have money to even pay for the first semester until like 2 weeks before. I didn't even have a flight ticket till like a week before. Like, I was and it took a community. So I have to acknowledge that when I just started running and believed that I was going to New York, people pulled in money and everything. So I didn't do it alone. Let's just put it that way. Parents might not be accepting, but everyone else was accepting. Yeah, but there were times I was crying in my bedroom, like, what am I doing? yeah. Like, I'm still not loyal to my country. What am I doing? I'm abandoning Malaysia. I'm abandoning my family. What am I like?
But it worked, right? I mean, now you're spending some time in Malaysia. You're giving back in your own way. To the people and the women. So so it worked out fine.
Yes, and that's also why I just make sure that it's really not in vain. So that's why I learn what I can in New York, in the art market, make as many connections, network here, so I can bring it back to my community, and that they can also afford it too. That's very important for me, because they can't afford US. Not they can't afford. I don't want to charge US dollars for that. That is my business plan for now. That's my business structure for now. It will certainly change in the future. But and I go back to KL for 2-3 months, and I give them everything. I give them all the information. Give them see how else I can network, and take that network and come back to New York and see how I can connect my Asian clients with the New York community as well. So that's something I'm interested in as the next step in my business.
So before we end, I'm sure people are interested, like, how can they find you or connect with you if you're women artists?
Well, you can visit me on my Instagram, which is melor.mokhtar, melor.mokhtar. So that's the best platform to reach me.
Yes. And so thank you, Melor, for a fascinating episode. I'm sorry I made you tear up, but there were times in my podcast when I teared up. I started having tears in my eyes because of this fantastic story someone was telling me, and I felt it was, such a lovely story. But I'm glad you told that story of yourself.
I wanted to thank you also in your platform and everything that you're doing for entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs in Asia. And it was certainly a journey from nerves to excitement to tears to joy. I appreciate it.
And now relief, right? Melor, now you're relief. Oh, thank God, it's over.
It's a relief. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Melor. It was really a pleasure talking to you. I'm really glad that there's someone like you helping women and art and getting more Asian women art and artists out there in the world.
I appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to Womenpreneur Asia. I hope you found today's conversation with Melor Mokhtar as interesting and inspiring as I did. Her unique approach to coaching and her passion for empowering Asian women artists reminds us of the power of choosing ourselves and embracing transformation. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need a little inspiration today. For more incredible stories and insights, visit womenpreneurasia.com or follow us on Instagram. Until next time, keep building, keep believing, and stay inspired.